this point, it's not even fair. It's just straight up cruel. And the latest news I have to share with you has just made it out that Alpine has betrayed all of their drivers, even Pierre. As if you needed any more evidence about that topic, I guess Esty Bestie got last laugh then. You might be weary of the rumours surrounding Alpine rookie Jack Doohan and his future. Allegedly, he has until the Miami Grand Prix to prove himself, or risk being replaced by reserve driver Franco Colapinto. Whilst it's not clear as to whether or not the legitimacy of this claim is real, it's still enough to make every single hair on your body curl upwards, kind of like what mine's doing right now. And I've got plenty of evidence to share with you. For starters, Alpine's former team principal Otar Szafnauer has once again recalled his experience with the team, and the circumstances around his dismissal in probably the most unflattering way yet, but very interesting, reflecting that it hinted at a worrying change in how teams understand Formula One itself. Because get this, he was talking on DC and Eddie Jordan's podcast Formula for Success, and he was reiterating that the way that Formula One teams are managed these days are nothing like what they used to be, as in they were managed by people who really understood Formula One or worked for previous Formula One teams, in that the mindset of a Formula One team owner has completely changed to want instant success now. Yes, you might be thinking, is his point even relevant because he's not been around since Flavio Briatore took office when he arrived as a consultant? But given that he was brought in to more effectively exercise the whims of the management, Szafnauer's comments still indicate some validity, especially when you get to the point where Alpine's just become incredibly brutal and even downright shameless. Here's what he's had to say. Ahem. It takes a long time, consistent and good work to be able to win, because everyone else is competitive. However, the new owners don't think like that. They understand very little about motorsport. They look at F1 as a sport. They see how a football team can go from midfield to victory from one year to the next by changing 5 players, and they think the same thing can happen in motorsport. But it's impossible, especially in Formula One. I quickly realised that the owners at Renault and Alpine had no idea about motorsport, and their expectations were out of line with reality. They wanted instant success. They expected me to fire everyone like I would a football team. They wanted me to replace 20% of the staff. But when I said no, that's not how it works. I can't fire people who are doing a good job because that's not how you build a culture, then I knew it was time. I knew they had a completely different idea of running a Formula One team, and I just couldn't stay. Well, sure, Otmar's spoken at length about the origins and reasons of his sacking. He's pretty much told anyone who would listen, but they are still valid comments and could even be transplanted copy-paste style to what he experienced at Aston Martin. He was right there when Team Silverstone was Force India and then transformed into the Green Team, where Papa Stroll's influence really reshaped the team. It's quite evident there that the celebratory shareholders are calling the shots here and wish to share their dinner table topic score big in Formula One. Now, don't get me wrong, Team Enstone in of itself is a storied team with plenty of heritage going back just over 40 years when it was known as Tolman. It deserves its place in Formula One and has a legacy of its own. It's perfectly justifiable. But as we all know, the management of that team has changed very frequently, if not the most frequently, in any Formula One team going right now. But the current management seemingly has been blinkered by the biggest injection of cash, interest and fanaticism that the sport has ever seen, especially from the US, with all of its big-name stars and, of course, well, Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhaney hoping to do the same with what they did at Wrexham in a couple of seasons. But it's just cost so much of its own identity, even its own academy. It's no wonder that one of its biggest hopefuls for F1, Victor Martin, jumped ship. No, seriously, he is well regarded in Formula 2, so much so that ART is prepared to take a punt on him, even though he's not backed by an academy anymore. He deserves to be in Formula 1 at this point, but he just might not get it because Alpine hung him out to dry. And what remains of the Alpine Academy is going to be made use of by Haas, Toyota, High-Tech, what have you. They're going to be picking at all the bits that remains, so that means they can benefit over there at Haas. However, I have to be fair here. In the pursuit of fairness, Flavio Briatore has responded, and I will share his comments. He has indeed responded to the allegations regarding favouritism, which have been further enhanced with his likening and referencing to Colapinto's success story in similar situations in the past, with the rise of both Michael Schumacher and Fernando Alonso respectively. Here's what Briatore had to say to try and calm things down, but I think it's only made it worse. Ahem. I came back to win races, and for that, you need the best. It was positive to put Jack in Abu Dhabi to give him one more race of experience. It'll be more than 5, that's what he gets, but he's joking apparently. First, we're going to start the season. I'm not a killer, I just want to have the best drivers possible. I've been representing Fernando Alonso for 23 years, which shows that I support drivers who give me what I ask of them. I need someone fast who can win a race. I am not pushing for Colapinto. We have 3 reserve drivers. Aaron and Colapinto are very, very fast. By the way, the 3rd reserve driver, that's Ryo Kirikawa, that's a Toyota connection, bizarrely. Jack at the moment has done very well in the testing, and Gasly did a super job last year. We are going to start the season, and then we will see if we have the chance. I try to make sure that we have the best possible. Whether it is Colapinto, Paul, or Jack, it doesn't matter to me. The car is full of sponsor stickers. The engineers complain because the car is too heavy, but I tell them that if we remove the sticker, we've removed the money. Ah, there it is. Money. Ha! Justifying the team's existence, at least with its current management. Renault wants to make a good return on its 2016 investment. And you know what I find really galling throughout all of this is that Jack Doohan has taken this on the chin. His charm and charisma has been absolutely remarkable. I applaud the young man for just holding firm, not letting anybody get him down, and just remaining steadfast in his justification and deserved feeling about being in Formula One. While poor Jack Doohan was trying to stand his ground and come back swinging, like I mentioned, trying to project confidence markedly well in his ability to see out the whole season, his own team then proceeded to undermine him, according to ESPN, in the biggest way possible, by announcing a partnership with Mercado Libre, one of Franco Colapinto's key sponsors, 10 minutes after Jack Doohan stopped talking at F1 75. And what this shows is that Alpine's strategy at the moment reveals a clear contradiction that means that none of its drivers are safe. Because even though the team is claiming that they are supporting the drivers that they've got, they clearly have bigger ambitions at the moment, and that includes attracting high-value sponsors that are attached to high-profile drivers in the here and now. Which of course aligns with Colapinto's current appeal, which in of itself is a lot of pressure on the young Argentinian, and he is also handling this extremely well. Whilst at the same time they are expecting everything possible from their drivers, they want the world, but at the same time are not really fully committed to them, or there's some kind of condition. And as we saw with Oscar Piastri, it makes the world of difference to know that the team that wants you really wants you for you. Flavio Briatore, he is no Mark Webber, who ironically is managed by Flavio Briatore. This leaves little room for rookies like Doohan and even Colapinto to develop at their own pace because there are expectations because of Alpine's focus on short-term gains. It's immense for both of them to navigate internal demands and fan expectations, all while meeting the high stakes set by their de facto boss. No, I'm not being defeatist here. I'm not just saying, oh, well, Renault's just allowing Flavio to do what he wants. I'm not being cynical here. The Renault Group boss, Luca De Meo, in the same article from F1 Chronicle that actually had Flavio's comments, said, let's be honest, Flavio is the boss. Renault's just rolled over and just gone, hey, Flav, you gave us 2 Constructors' Championships in the 2000s, do what you want. They pretty much left him alone to do what he pleases, and all that has done is create tension amongst the Alpine drivers. Even Pierre probably feels a little bit caught in the middle when it comes to the entire situation. What does he do? As this tweet from Jorge Piero noted, that the Alpine press officer at F1 75, during the very same interview where Jack held firm, demanded that there be no more questions fielded about Franco to any of the drivers, and at that point there had been 3. What's become really clear right now, and even in the analytics of some of my videos on the matter, is that people simply don't care about Jack Doohan. They really don't. Videos on the subject do not resonate with fans out there, and in turn, the media are quick to dismiss him and say, when are you going to make room for Franco? And once again, I've got to give props to Jack. You are holding your own. You do deserve a chance, and I really hope that you stick out the whole season. And at the same time, I think Franco has a future in Formula One. I just want him to wait his turn. And all of this is just coming at the moment where we got to remember here, Jack Doohan comes from a very storied motorsporting family. Mick Doohan, legend in terms of motorbikes. I don't know much about motorbikes, but I certainly respect the achievements of Mick Doohan and his connections with the Schumacher family in of itself. If Mick Schumacher wasn't going to get the F1 seat, at least it was a Doohan. And it's also evident nobody is really sure over at Alpine exactly what is going down in of themselves. And based on the awkward tension most likely emanating at that press conference, Jack is getting sick and tired and wants to know answers. And maybe Pierre is trying to stay out of it and focusing on his own season, because as we can see from Pierre's comments in both the Express and F1i.com, inadvertently, he might be undermining Jack without even trying. Because what Pierre's trying to do right now with these two particular articles and interviews is trying to remain neutral, be diplomatic, not really go one way or the other. On the surface, they appear to come across as genuine sentiments and a general feeling of support for Jack and not wanting to really think of anything short term. But when I take a look at these two articles, the vibe that I'm getting from Pierre is that he's really not helping. On one hand, Gasly comes off as an encouraging mentor and elder, praising Doohan's talent and technical feedback without any harsh criticism. Yet, when you look deeper into his comments, especially in his suggestion that Alpine should really abandon short-term fixes for a long-term 2026 build instead, it tells a different story. His call, the Frenchman's, for a long-term vision seems like a subtle warning. Alpine's fixation on quick results and commercial deals, like those tied to Franco, risk putting undue pressure on Doohan and even himself and everyone who works at the team. So whilst Pierre Gasly is trying to paint a picture where he is just saying, oh, Jack's doing fine, I'm not really worried about him at all, I just leave him to it, it's really sending out a broader message that he is not happy with the way Alpine is managing itself. Because we've got to remember to back when Pierre first signed on the dotted line in 2022, he was going into a team which was a works team, and he valued works teams and said that that was the future. But when it became clear that it was going to become a customer team with Mercedes, because Flavio chose specifically Mercedes, yeah, we're going to have the really best power unit again, it's going to be fantastic, Flavio, why don't you come and join us, you old school goat you. It meant that Pierre had to change tack and then go, well, you know what I said about works teams? Well, that was in the past. Maybe you can be a customer team like McLaren and see success because they won the constructors. We can do that too. And as we all know, Alpine's doing its very best to copy exactly what McLaren did in 2023, thinking the same uptick in form might happen to them. Because as we all know, in 2023, when McLaren improved, it was at the initial cost and expense of Alpine. It does seem that Pierre is not really convinced with what is going on with the team, but is hoping for the best, since his own prospects of finding work with another operation at the moment, they're looking a little bit slim and threadbare. Sure, don't get me wrong, Alpine have done well to secure someone as stable as Gasly, as a leader as well, who has proven results at teams like Alpine, AlphaTauri, what have you, who lack focus or resources or commitment. But now that I think about it, as things have gone down in the last 6 months when it became clear that the position of Ocon at Alpine became untenable, that they would part company at the end of the season, maybe I was wrong thinking that Pierre had won, technically. I think now Esti Besti has the last laugh by going over to Haas. Where they are right now to where they were 12 months ago is a completely different story. That I wouldn't be surprised if Ocon gets himself a podium before one of the Alpine lads. And that maybe if Toyota does continue to progress with its relationship with Ayo Komatsu's team, that Esteban will be the winner. That it might have been best for him to leave. Because his future there looks really rock solid, but Alpine's situation, it could be solid, but it's a little bit more nebulous than over at Haas, so you can understand why Pierre might be a little bit concerned at the moment. And as you can probably tell from this discussion, it's not all about Jack Doohan's cause. I didn't want to just put all the onus on the young Australian. It's a case where every single driver present at Team Enston has a varying degree of pressure or uncertainty as to their futures. Even Paul Aaron. Because the poor Estonian kid, him getting that plum as being the Alpine reserve driver for 2025 before Franco was signed, looked like a ticket for him to have an opportunity maybe in getting into Formula 1 after all, when he left the Mercedes junior team to strike it out in Formula 2 a year earlier than what Toto had planned for him. And it looked like it was going to work out. He got in the top 3. He then got a gig as an F1 reserve driver. And then it was looking like Oliver Roach was going to be pushing forward with them becoming high-tech tech, Paul Aaron, brilliant, fantastic. Then Franco comes along and has pretty much scuppered up his own plans as well as Jack's. So you got to feel for that kid as well. Ryo Hirakawa, well, I think he's sitting pretty. He gets to drive some more F1 machinery as well as Haas cars. And hey, he's then bankrolled by Toyota, so fine by him. He can be just an impartial bystander. So yes, Otmar's comments might be accurate. In fact, they are accurate. Still, the team is chasing results now and will be further emboldened by the fact that so far, that mindset is proven to have worked, because despite the team spending the first half of last season tied to the back of the grid for most races, their final team placement and last-minute surge was exactly the same position of P6 as last year, 2023. No harm done, seemingly. But then let's be real. The Brazilian Grand Prix was very fortuitous for Alpine. A second and a third. Sure, they were looking pretty solid in the wet, but that's 33 points. That was almost half of the points they ended up with for 2024. Had they not gotten that bumper result, they would have most likely been a distant 8th in the Constructors, and Haas would have been in 6th place. In fact, objectively speaking, if you look at the entire season, Haas deserved 6th place more than Alpine. Then we do have to point out the insight of one Johnny Herbert. Yes, I know you might be aghast at this, given his recent controversies and affiliation as both an FIA steward and a pundit for dubious websites, but in this context, he has got some skin in the game here. Because as some old school fans may remember, Johnny Herbert was a driver for Benetton. He even won a couple of races under Flavio Briatore's watch, and was present when he also then cast him aside over to Sauber for 1996 to take in the Ferrari refugees of Berger and Alesi, because then Schumacher, his own boy, and won 2 championships with, had then gone to Ferrari. And Flavio is still bitter about it to this very day. He will not stop talking about it, despite this happening 30 years ago. Herbert, though, believes Doohan is living on borrowed time, especially after Colapinto's rise came just days after Doohan's contract was penned. That before he knows it, Jack will be out as quick as he blinks, and that F1 is not always full of budding roses. Yes, that article that was on that dubious website, but then was redistributed through Racing News 365, which is a far better publication, by the way. Johnny does have a very valid point. I'm not saying Formula One should be really careful and softly and be really considerate for all of its drivers, but as far as we're concerned, Jack was given a 1-year deal, and therefore he should be getting a whole year to do the deal. And then after that, who knows? If he doesn't perform after 1 year and that contract is run out, fair enough. Whatever. Formula One is the pinnacle of single-seater racing, and Jack, like everyone else, is expected to play their part in getting the team the best results possible with what they are given. So Alpine also have to do their part in the deal. Otmar is right. What's going on at Alpine is doing a disservice to all of its drivers, even the ones who are doing well or actually stand to benefit from this deal. Even with Franco, if he doesn't perform, he could easily be dropped, but at least he's got Williams to fall back on, and James would be more than happy to take him in, give him a hug, give him a cup of mate, and just say, "Look, don't worry, Franco, everything will be okay." And Flavio will have egg on his face because he spent 15 million on the kid. But what Alpine is doing right now is just straight up out of touch with all of the other teams, because Otmar spent the better half of 2022, according to previous interviews of his, building the right departments and hiring the right people to build a solid framework for the future over a period of years. But what you sense is that all the old talk of a 5-year plan from Doohan Rossi or the 100-race plan, yeah, Alpine are bored of that right now. So instead of building up workforces that are 1,000 strong, as most teams are doing right now, Alpine's demanding the impossible. Cadillac even! Andretti did their homework in building up a base in Silverstone. They've done everything right, and I think they will do well. Alpine's completely contradicting everyone else. Even the front-running teams, they're doing their best to prepare and have long-term goals. And also, we've got to remember, McLaren, their restructuring and rebuilding from a bad 2018 campaign when they couldn't blame Honda anymore took 5 years to get where it is, where they could win a Constructors' Championship and be a front-runner again. 5 years! So yeah, folks, brace yourself. If you're a brand new fan to Formula One, yeah, expect the situation at Alpine to be just as precarious as that spanner. While old school fans may not be surprised, and maybe even applaud Flavio for being cutthroat, Alpine's fast and loose approach with its drivers is a classic case of chasing results over long-term development. With Gasly as their solid bet, they're eager to slot Colapinto in beside him as soon as possible. Contractual obligations to do and be damned. It is the ultimate now mentality. Yeah, apologies to all the headphone users out there, but I'm just so angry! It's so obvious. Flavio got in as boss. As soon as he can, he puts in his own boy Jack over the other Alpine Academy drivers, and one of his first acts probably to boot. Then at the same time, Franco is most likely feeling the pressure himself to live up to the expectations of his new manager. Sure, being likened to Michael and Fernando is a great honour to be bestowed upon, but it comes with targets and goals to justify your supposed price tag. So just like with Doohan, if Franco then gets parachuted into that seat, given all of the hype that surrounds him, he will be expected to then perform now. And what's worse, he comes with sponsors to satisfy, to placate, and also be justifiable for the 7-8 figure sum that he came with over from Oxfordshire's team. So you could argue that Franco's lot could be even worse. But then hey, at the same time, if Franco is the bee's knees and he turns out to be just as good at Alpine than he is at Williams, if not more so, then it doesn't really matter. He'll have been chucked off the edge and then he would have flown. But Jack needs his turn. Because one thing's for sure, that pressure of Colapinto was not there at Williams when he tagged in for Logan. In fact, you could call James's treatment of Logan in 2024 compared to the Alpine situation as being positively nurturing and patient to a fault. Yes, Formula 1 can be tough, and it should be deservedly tough and ruthless because it's right at the top. But at the same time, creating awkward tension in your team where not even Pierre Gasly can feel comfortable in, and again, he was the guy who suspectedly won the battle against Esteban Ocon, his long-term arch-nemesis, all it's going to be doing is proving that either the Alpine thing is going to be shaky, or it's completely going to be changing hands, and then the team ethos might change completely, and Flavio will have done his work, and then he'll saunter off to retirement, leaving Oliver Oaks to pick up the mess. But one thing is for damn sure, this kid, Jack, does not deserve to be spending most of his media days fending off questions about another kid. Come on! And speaking of the new guy, Adrian Newey will be formally starting work at Aston Martin next Monday. But if Alonso, Papa Stroll, and now the team principal Andy Cowell's comments are anything to go by, the legendary designer may as well be their new Papa. To find out why I reckon that the Green team might have opened the Pandora's box of Formula 1, watch this video next, straight after this one. And if you're wondering what I think about the Max Verstappen booing thing, I'm leaving that alone.